Alright boys, we're back at Amateur Hour, and as usual at Amateur Hour I'm going to be giving my fight predictions on the card. I'm going to quickly make my predictions and move up the card. I won't be too long trying to bore you guys too much, just giving you my take on who I think is going to win. Some of these guys are complete guesses. Some of these guys I've watched over some time and I have a little bit more insight into those fights and who I think are going to win. And I'll also be giving some of my betting tips on what I will be betting on and who I think will win. So let's just start straight off the bat with the first fight of the night is Joanne Wood and Marina Moraes. So I kind of know Marina Moraes. I'm probably butchering her name right now, to be quite honest. But I do know Joanne Wood. I'm going to go ahead on this one, and I'm probably not going to bet. I'm just going to have a prediction on this, and I'm going to go ahead and say that Moraes is going to win from Ukraine. I just think she's got a really good stand-up game. I think this game will be predominantly stand-up, but we will see. The next fight's going to be CJ Vergara versus Alimambayev. Again, butchering his name. Apologies. He's from Kazakhstan. Don't really know too much about the guy. He's 18 and 2. Okay, this guy looks good. I know Vergara. I've seen him fight before, and he's an absolute dog. I've seen him come back from a massive comeback win. That one's a tough one, but I'm going to go ahead and pick the guy from Kazakhstan. That's just an absolute 50-50 for me. I'm just shooting it. We've got the long-awaited debut that is a guy that's got a lot of hype around him right now. I think he's had like 3 fights and finished all 3 fights within an allotted cage time of under a minute. No-brainer on that one. He's got a longer reach than John Jones. This guy, I think, is going to get around 1 KO against Josh Parisian. I just think that's the case. I think his last fights speak for themselves. Yes, he's jumping up in competition, and he's going to be fighting a guy who's obviously been around UFC fighters multiple times and experienced guys, but I just think this guy is long, he's rangy, he's got a lot of hype behind him, and I think he's going to win by round 1 KO for sure. Okay, next fight, Michael Pereira and Michael Oleksiejczuk. Again, butchering his name, apologies, from Poland. This fight is actually going to be a bit of a banger. I think they're both stand-up fighters. I've definitely watched Michel Pereira fight multiple times before. He's exciting as hell to watch. He's definitely got a unorthodox style in the octagon, but he definitely is entertaining as hell, and he's also a very good fighter. I think people, when he first came out, people were sort of like just thinking the way he throws his techniques and stuff, he wasn't as good as he actually is, but he's quite a good fighter, and he's moving up to middleweight. So we all know he's sort of had a bit of a struggle, Michel, with his weight in welterweight. So this fight, I think he fought at middleweight on his last fight, and he won by knockout, which let's just have a little gander here. It was his last fight. Do we know? Oh, yeah, this Petrosky guy. And that Petrosky guy had some hype around him too. So I definitely think he's going to win the fight. I think he's going to be a lot more powerful, which he was super powerful at welterweight, and he's a big guy. I think he's going to win by knockout. But I could see it going the distance. But I don't want to disrespect Michael from Poland. He's got good hands too, and he's a striker as well, and he's a dog. I've seen him come back in multiple fights. So again, my money's on Michel Pereira, and that's probably, I'll put a bet on this fight, I think, and that's who I'll probably put the bet on. But I would not sleep. Like, he's 19 and 6, this guy from Poland. Like, he's no joke. He's fought some top contenders before as well. So I mean, that's just my opinion. I'll be betting on Michel Pereira, see how it plays out. Next fight on the card is Ion Couto and Felipe Lins from Brazil. I think, man, that's a pick on one for me too. Let's see here. What do we got here? The stats. So, I mean, we all know the guys, the Hulk. What do they call him? The Hulk or something? This guy has got knockout power, and he's strong as hell, and he's aggressive as hell. So you know he's coming to fight. I probably won't put a bet on this one myself, but just to pick them, just to pick all my fights for the fight cards, I'm probably going to go ahead and pick Felipe Lins just on this one. That's just a pure 50-50 fight for me. I don't know too much about Felipe Lins. I think I've seen him fight before in the UFC. I know a little bit more about Kultulabar. Sorry, again, butchering his name. Poor bloke. Probably going to hate me if he sees this, which he probably never will anyway. But I just think that guy's got probably a better chance of winning, and that's just purely off a guess, to be quite honest with you. But I do know who Ion is, and he is a striker, and he's got severe power, so I wouldn't count him out by no means. Now, moving on. Jesus, this card is stacked. I mean, look at this. Pedro Munoz on one of the first fights of the prelims. That's insane against Kyler Phillips. Now, I'm going to bet on this fight, and I'm going to bet on Pedro just because Pedro is a dog. He's fought a lot better competition. I also know Kyler Phillips. I've seen him fight before. He was a phenomenal fighter. And again, I actually think he might train with Sugar Sean in that camp, to be quite honest with you, but I'm not 100% sure. But he's a little bit more of a different striker. I just don't know about the cardio gas tank of him, where I know as a Pedro Munoz. If it was to go the distance, I see it leaning towards Pedro, but I mean, Pedro's got great striking, great ground game, and I know Kyler Phillips has a phenomenal stand-up game. I've seen him fight before. He's got beautiful striking. For me, I'm going to lean towards Pedro, and I'm going to probably put him in my bet. I'm probably going to put him either towards a KO or a decision. I don't see him submitting him, but it wouldn't surprise me, to be quite honest. But that's who I'm probably going to pick in that fight for the prelims. I'm then going to jump up to Gamrot and Dos Anjos, which... Again, this could be a sleeper fight. These guys are top lightweights. Gamrot's fought really good competition. Dos Anjos, I don't really need to speak too much on that. He's obviously very, very good, very skilled, a veteran of the sport, fought multiple top contenders, a champion, former champion himself. This fight in itself is going to be a banger, I believe. This, again, could be a pick'em fight for me. They both got a really good ground game. I mean, if I'm leaning towards anyone, I like the ground game sort of. I think Gamrot may have the advantage on the ground, but I wouldn't disrespect Dos Anjos on the ground either. I think they may cancel each other out to some degree, but on the striking, my personal opinion is that Rafael Dos Anjos has better striking. I think that will probably show itself in the fight, but again, cardio-wise as well, I think they've both got a very similar gas tank. We all know Gamrot has gone 5 rounds before. He's a wrestling machine, and he's very, very good on the ground, as well as Dos Anjos. He's been multiple 5-rounders, fought really good competition. I just see that fight going possibly the distance in that regard, and I see maybe Dos Anjos edging it out. Otherwise, he could get overwhelmed by Gamrot, but I'd probably lean towards more Dos Anjos. That's just because I like to go with the experienced fighter. I've noticed in a few of those matchups, don't get me wrong, the young guy does win, but sometimes you get a shock with the experienced fighters. They've been there before. They know a few more tricks in the trade, and that's why I'd probably lean towards more Dos Anjos in that fight. And I'd probably lean towards more of a decision. So we'll jump on to the next one, which is Caitlin Sermonara, and I thought that was Caitlin Chukagan. She must have changed her name, versus Macy Barber. That's going to be a good fight. Both girls are great stand-up fighters. Macy Barber is very, very entertaining to watch. I'm sure you guys have seen her before. She just comes forward, and she's a phenomenal striker. She's also very well on the ground as well, like not disrespecting that at all. This is going to be a tough fight. I think Caitlin's reach is going to impose some problems on Macy getting inside and landing. Do I think she has the skills to get inside? Well, most certainly. Like, it's a no-brainer. Like, all these fighters are incredibly experienced and talented. Of course they can. Do I see her getting a finish? Possibly to the body. We saw the shorter fighter with Andrade get in on Caitlin and finish her to the body. I could see Macy Barber doing something similar, or seeing a weakness and trying to expose that to some degree. I see the reach being a bit of an issue. I know they've both got somewhat of a gas, or not somewhat of a gas tank. They've both got a gas tank. Do I see it going to decision? Possibly. And if it was, I'd probably lean towards Macy. Otherwise, I'd maybe lean towards Macy for a finish, just because I feel like she's the more powerful fighter. But I wouldn't be surprised if Caitlin can establish that reach early and use that jab and those front kicks that she likes to use. I could see her getting away with a decision win for sure. Again, that's a 50-50 fight for me. These girls are both phenomenal fighters, number 4 and number 6. So it speaks for itself, I suppose, in that regard. Next fight on the card is Blades and Almeida. Straight off the bat, I'm going to pick Almeida. That guy is a machine. I know you guys have probably seen him, and if you haven't, you need to go check him out. He is a problem in the heavyweight division. He is grappling, and his gas tank speaks for itself. He grappled Derek Lewis for 5 rounds, and it wasn't even close. He's destroyed multiple other heavyweights. He is a machine, and the guy looks like a bloody Greek god. Like, he's jacked as hell. Curtis Blades is a great fighter and a phenomenal wrestler. I'm not taking nothing away from him. And he's got powerful hands too. We might even see it cancel out and it be a stand-up fight. I haven't really seen Almeida do much on the feet, although he tells everyone that he's good on the feet. We may be seeing a stand-up fight with this. The wrestling and the jiu-jitsu could cancel each other out. So that'll be a very interesting fight. The only reason why I'm leaning towards Almeida is because, 1, the hype around him. 2, he's finished, I think, almost all of his fights, apart from Derek Lewis. I don't know if he finished Derek Lewis or not, so I'd have to check that. Curtis Blades is known to gas. He's also known to get knocked out by big shots, which I don't know if that's going to take part in here, because Almeida's he more tends to go towards the grappling. I'd pick Almeida. I'm probably going to put Almeida in by sub or decision. I can just see him ragdolling. Well, I wouldn't say ragdolling. I think that's the wrong way to say, because Curtis Blades is a phenomenal wrestler. So even if I tell you what, if it was to cancel each other out and stand up, it would be a very interesting fight. I mean, again, it could go either way. I think Almeida will get the takedown. I think his cardio will overwhelm Curtis Blades to some degree. It's just if Curtis Blades can get up and how many takedowns can he defend. And he may even be able to tire out Almeida, possibly. We haven't seen that yet. And it is only a 3-round fight. So my money's on Almeida for that fight. I would put him on for a submission or a decision. That's sort of where I'd be leaning towards. But it wouldn't surprise me if Curtis Blades has got hands. He's got power too. And we've seen that before. So I could see Curtis Blades putting him out early in round 1, maybe even round 2. But my money's gonna be on Almeida anyway. All right, now to the main event. What everyone's waiting to see. I mean, the first fight, Peter Yan and Song Yudong. Like, I don't think people are giving that fight the respect it deserves. They've tried to book this fight a few times. I think us as fans are missing out on a 5-round war. If it was to go 5 rounds, I personally think someone's getting knocked out early. I think Yudong has one-hit power knockout. Like, it's just crazy. Like, he will touch your chin and you can go out at any time. He's a dog and he walks forward. And I think Peter Yan, definitely not taking nothing away from Peter Yan. He is obviously a massive dog. We've all seen that before. He's a phenomenal striker, and he's got very, very good movement, a really good tie trips, and he's an aggressive fighter himself. My money's going to be most likely on Yudong because I favour the power side. If it's going to be a stand-up striking fight, I favour the power side, and that's just Yudong, and that's just purely off. I like that Yudong could clip him once and maybe put him out. And not saying Yan couldn't do the same either, but I just feel like Yudong, he's come off that loss with Corey Sandhagen. I think he learned a lot from that. He came back. He looked a lot better in the fight after that, I personally believe. I think he's going to make some severe adjustments. I personally think that we may see Peter Yan wrestle a little bit more in this fight. I mean, can you blame either bloke if they do? Like, who would want to be standing across the octagon from either of these blokes? Like, these guys are absolute killers, top contenders. Yan's a former champion. Believe he could get the belt back in a fight or two, 100%. I believe Yudong is the same. You match him up with anyone, he's a scary guy. He's a massive prospect and a scary guy in that division. That fight to open the card that's my favourite fight, one of my favourite fights on the card, and I think that could be knockout of the year. It could be fight of the year, depending on how the fight goes. Definitely think that fight there is going to shock. I don't think it's going to shock a lot of people, especially the people who know much about UFC, but I definitely think that that's going to be a barn burner. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was an early KO in round 1 or 2. I really wouldn't. I'm betting on Yudong by KO just because of the power. And I just feel like he hasn't had his shot at the belt yet. I feel like he thinks he's coming back. He looks great. I think if anyone's seen the new photos of him, he's absolutely shredded. He's working with Uriah Faber in that team. Alpha Male and has been for a while. My money's on Yudong by KO, but I could see it going decision or the other way. Petty Yarn by KO, but we'll see. We're going to see, but my money's on Yudong. I'd be interested to see what you guys think of that fight, actually. Next fight, I'm going with my boy Jack. Gilbert Burns and Jack. I'm an Aussie. I'm going with Jack 100%. I think he has the better boxing, and that's no disrespect to Gilbert. Gilbert has a phenomenal stand-up game, and he's got power, and he's got a world championship level jiu-jitsu game. Like, I think if it goes to the ground, I think I would like to see what happens, but I think Gilbert Burns could definitely find himself a submission on the ground. I think everyone's scared of Gilbert Burns on the ground. We saw that with Kazmat Chimaev. He took him to the ground, and straight away he's getting pounded on, and Gilbert goes for an armbar, and Chimaev didn't want to know about it. He actually says that after the fight. I didn't want to know about the ground game. So Gilbert Burns is definitely no slouch on the ground. I don't think it's going to go to the ground early. I can see Gilbert Burns starting off on the feet. I definitely see Jack touching him to the chin and to the body. I think Jack's body work in the welterweight division is no one's really come close to that with the boxing. I think his boxing to the body is very, very, very good, and I think that's going to be a huge factor in this fight. Again, personal opinion, personal preference. I'm an Australian fan, Aussie boy. Jack, I'm always going to back my Aussies, always. But Jack is good in that division. I think you can see him being a problem, and I think he wins by KO, and I think he wins early too. I could see it happening in round 1. But I wouldn't rule out Gilbert. I've got massive respect for Gilbert Burns. He's put on that fight with Kazmat has to be one of my favourite fights in the UFC. He's an absolute savage, a warrior. I don't take nothing away from that last fight with Belal Muhammad. He was obviously hurt through that fight. You could tell it wasn't him. But I think this is also a potential fight of the night, and it could be a potential knockout of the night as well for either fighter. But I'm backing Jack. Next fight is Kevin Holland and Michael Page. Man, that's going to be a good one. Who knows? Like, how many people have rocked Stephen Wonderboy Thompson in a fight? Not very many, and Kevin Holland's one of them. Very good fighter. Talks a lot. Very fun and entertaining. Michael Page, if you know him from Bellator, like, if you don't know Michael Page, go and look at some of his highlight reels. Some of his KOs are phenomenal, and I don't know why it's taken him this long to sign to the UFC, but it is what it is. We get now privileged to see it on this card. This is going to be a barn burner. I could definitely see Michael Venom Page coming out with a KO of the night just because of his style. Nothing to do with Kevin Holland. I think he's phenomenal. I just think Michael Venom Page's style, it's unique. It's very, very different. Like I said, if you don't know much about him, go and check out his highlights. I guarantee you, once you see them, you will understand what my hype is about this guy. I think he's a problem for anyone in the division. I do not see this being anywhere near a grappling fight whatsoever. I see it being a stand-up fight and potentially seeing someone get knocked out. Again, Michael Venom Page is a phenomenal striker. Kevin Holland is too, and I'm not taking nothing away from him, but when you look at Michael Page, I just think he has a little more tools in the arsenal. I definitely see him finishing Kevin Holland, but as I said, I wouldn't be surprised if it went the distance because Kevin Holland is tough and he is very, very good, and he's fought some very good competition. But I wouldn't be surprised if there was a knockout of the night with this card either with Michael Venom Page. As I said, he's very, very dynamic in the striking, and that's going to be a fun one. I'm putting my money on Michael Page by KO. I'm probably not going to pick around because it's so hard with Kevin Holland because he's an absolute dog. And he as I said, most people finish him by submission. Yes, he's had a couple of knockouts, I understand that, but Michael Venom Page by knockout throughout the entire fight seems like sure money to me. Next fight is Dustin Poirier versus Benoit Saint Denis. Again, a phenomenal fight. I think... what's happened here? This fight here, it speaks for itself. I mean, this Benoit Saint Denis, I know a bit of him. I've watched a little bit of his highlights. I've seen a couple of his fights. He's an absolute dog and a warrior. But we're going up against the Diamond, Dustin Poirier. Like, it's hard to bet against this guy. Like, he's been around multiple divisions, top contenders. He's fought the best of the best, former interim champ. To bet against him, it's too hard for me to do that. I respect Benoit Saint Denis, and I know he's a hungry fighter. I know he's coming up. He started off in around 2018, from what I believe of, with his UFC career, and I definitely add that into the mix of who I pick for this fight, just because I always tend to lean, as I said before, towards the more experienced fighter. But in this sense, it's not just the more experienced fighter, it's a guy who's been at the top for a long time. We've seen his fights. He's an absolute dog. He's got it all, as well as Benoit Saint Denis. He's got it all as well. But I just think on the striking, I think Dustin Poirier could most certainly clip this guy and knock him out early. I think the ground game cancels each other out. I think they've both got a great gas tank. And let's not forget, this is 5 rounds. So how many times has Benoit Saint Denis been in a 5-round fight? I think it's 0. Dustin Poirier, different story. He's got different story. That's hilarious. I think Dustin Poirier wins by KO in this fight. I think it's going to not go 5 rounds. I think Benoit Saint Denis, if he doesn't clip him early in the fight, he's in trouble. I just think Dustin Poirier's fought too many top contenders, and he's still consistent with who he fights. He's still a phenomenal fighter. He's still hungry for that belt. I've watched a little bit of press conference from him with the media this week. He still seems to be back there wanting that belt. He could have easily said himself he could have retired, but he's still hungry for that belt. It's not the money no more. I think we see Dustin Poirier knock out Benoit Saint Denis, and that's just a personal preference of mine. That's my own opinion. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about this fight, as well as the other fights that I've mentioned. But let me know what you think about this fight. I think Dustin Poirier by KO. It is a 5-round fight, people. Let's not forget that. Dustin Poirier, very well versed in a 5-round fight. Benoit Saint Denis, not as much so. Not saying that that's a massive factor, but if we go past 3 rounds, it most certainly will be. So let me know what you think. I've got Dustin Poirier by KO, and I don't know if I could pick around on that, to be quite honest, but I just see Dustin Poirier finishing this guy. I just don't see how he loses, but unless he gets clipped early, and hey, it's the fight game, so anything can happen, am I right? So let's move to this next fight. Okay, the main event, Sugar Sean and Marlon Vera. I'm just going to be straight up and tell you, I think Sugar Sean's knocking this guy out or winning by decision pretty easily. I think if you watch the first fight, and again, I'm not taking nothing away from Cheeto. Like, Cheeto's a dog. He's durable as hell. He's got a gas tank. He finished Dominic Cruz. I know there's a lot of speculation behind the fact that he was getting destroyed for those rounds, and he needed to finish him to win, but he did, and he won. So, like, you can't take nothing away from him. When it comes to the Sean O'Malley fight, I have a little bit of a mixed feeling about that. I know people like it's a fight. His leg got hurt from the kick and he lost. Fair play. I agree with that. But what do I think before that? I think Cheeto was getting pieced up. That's what I truly believe. I thought those body shots were going to do dividends in the later rounds. I thought Sean O'Malley looked very good in that fight. I thought he landed a lot cleaner shots. He looked very quick, and you could sort of see Cheeto. It's when I watched that fight again, which I have, it sort of reminded me of the Corey Sandhagen fight. You could sort of see he was a little bit like taken back with Sean. Like, I think people sleep on Sean and his movement and his striking ability and his speed, and they just sort of look at him and judge him from what he looks like. But the guy's good, and he's got good footwork. We saw that with the Aljamain Sterling fight. I just see Sugar Sean knocking Marlon out, or at least picking him apart for a few rounds, and then knocking him out. I'm not saying that Marlon can't beat him. I'd be interested to see if it went over 3 or 4 rounds, because I guess cardio, we all know, plays a massive factor in the UFC. But for my money, I got to go Sugar Sean by KO. You just have to. Like, you look at his last performance with Sterling. The guy had a camp that was terrible. So he says, and you got to go off the man's word. He didn't do any wrestling, nothing. And Aljamain Sterling said it himself, the footwork he was not expecting. And I feel like no one really respected him. Even after the Yarn fight, they sort of told him, like, he didn't really win that fight, and he's not as good as what people think, and he's getting pushed by the UFC, and there is some argument for that. But let's not forget, when was the last time we saw Jan a wrestler? I think that speaks volumes for itself. I think he was a little bit shocked himself with how good Sugar Sean is, and I personally believe the Sterling fight, he was hyping himself up. He admitted that he was good, but I think he thought he was just going to jump on his back and choke him out. But I think when he got in there, he realised, like, this movement is different. He's never dealt with it before. And I think he struggled with it immensely, and he got clipped. He got clipped coming in because he didn't know what else to do, and he was eating those beautiful teeps to the body. O'Malley does beautiful teeps to the body. He does good body work. So I personally think O'Malley by KO. I don't think it goes past 3 rounds, but that's just an opinion of mine. And I think if it does, I can see O'Malley picking him apart. But if O'Malley gets tired, he's in trouble. Because we all know Marlon's a late finisher. We all know he's durable and he's got a gas tank. And let's not forget, he's got a lot of fans where he's fighting right now. He's got a lot on his shoulder. So he's got his family there. He's not just coming to lose. He's coming to win. Let's hope he doesn't have the Sandhagen performance. And if you check out my simulation video, if it goes anything like that, we're in for a treat. So see how it plays out. I've got Sugar Sean by KO. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know what you guys think with the rest of the card. Let me know if you think there's going to be a personal standout fight. And I'll put up all my picks in a few polls, and we'll go up against each other. And join me in the live stream. If you guys aren't going to watch it, I'm going to be streaming Nagano and Joshua in the morning, that's in Australia. So I don't know where you guys are all situated from, but feel free to tune in. I'm going to commentate that whole card. I'm also going to commentate this entire main card from UFC 299. How could you not? So anybody who wants to tune in, get me on the chat, give me their thoughts, have a little bit of a laugh while we're watching the fights. Come see me on Sunday and Saturday for you guys in the States, and we'll go from there. I'll see you on the weekend. Get ready, boys. It's going to be a banger. Amateur hour.